Hey guys, welcome to the second Draw Comics with Joy, Comic with Me video on this channel. So it seems like you guys really enjoyed the previous Comic with Me video, so I'm excited to share another one with you. Hope you enjoy. This one is slightly different. I don't know how to. It's slightly different because I'm going to be showing you how I draw a page from the very beginning, from the sketches to the very end, with all the glitz and glamour and all the effects and all that kind of stuff. So I guess jumping into it, the way I start a lot of my pages is I draw my boxes. Like I said in my previous comic video, I don't really script a page out. I just kind of jump into it, and I found that the first thing that I do is kind of decide how many boxes I want to portray the scene in, and then I just kind of go from there. And I do change. You'll see towards when I'm almost done the sketching of the page, you can see me change those panels around. So yeah, so the first thing here, I am drawing a panel of Stella going down the stairs. At first I went with a more simple, layout. But then I decided to go with something a bit more complicated. I use Google Images a lot for my references, so I will show you what reference I was using for this exact scene. It's again very similar to the perspective from the picture itself, just to make it simple. But yeah, I think a bit more of a exciting perspective adds a lot more to the page, especially if the other panels are going to be a bit more simple. So yeah, and what else? So yeah, I'll show you all the references that I use. I use references a lot. I always have Google in front of me, and I don't stick to one reference image when I'm looking at a reference. I like looking up something on Google and having all the different kinds of, if I type in stairs, there's like different kinds of images of stairs, not just one. So yeah, and another thing I wanted to mention, I don't really go too crazy with the perfection in terms of perspective. I eyeball a lot of my drawings, and I do use references, but if you look at the stairs that I drew, they're not exactly, to perspective. I don't really do that, and sometimes I feel ashamed of it. Not ashamed, but sometimes I feel like I could do more. But again, I do want to churn out pages as much as I can because I want to get the story going. And I don't think it's me rushing, it's me just wanting to create this comic. I guess you could call it rushing, but I don't think I am. I think it looks okay for what it is. I'm not, the best at perspective anyway. So this at least I got some practice doing it, and I was able to, draw the layout. Okay, so let's stop talking about the stairway. What else did I want to mention? So when I was working on these pages, I actually worked on 2 pages. I wanted to mention how long it took me to do the 2 pages. I'm only showing you the 1 page in this, and this page is going to be posted up on Tapas Comics and Webtoon by the time you see this video. I might even get the 2nd page done and post it, but I'm just showing you the 1 page. And overall, the 2 pages I created from beginning to end, the footage I took was about 4 hours. So it seems like each page from sketch to final takes me about 2 hours. And this is how complicated it gets, I think, unless I'm working on a spread, like a double spread, or 2 pages laid beside each other, then that's probably going to take a lot longer because of the perspective. So yeah, here I am drawing a naked Stella. Hopefully YouTube doesn't take this down for the female figure. I mean, it's pretty simple. Yeah, she looks really stiff here, so I spent a lot of time actually drawing that panel of her without any clothes. So I went through a lot of references. So I wanted her to look, curvaceous, pretty. So at first I did this like really stiff drawing of her, and then you can see me work throughout the page until it's done. Anyway, so yeah, here's me working with the panels, moving stuff around to see what reads better. I really like how there are some mangas where they show the full body of a person just so they can show what this person looks like, and then the panels are either on the left or the right. This layout is pretty simple. I did end up going with Stella the full body of Stella on the left side instead of the right. I haven't really thought about how the pages are going to be laid out in this comic when it is printed out, so I haven't really thought about that yet. If it does get to the point where I am going to be printing this comic, you know, as a hard copy, then I'd have to kind of plan out how the pages are going to look. There are certain pages that I want to be beside each other, so that's kind of in the back of my mind when I'm working on these things. I don't want to, when I'm working on the pages, I don't want to give myself trouble, my future self trouble, if I do decide to lay this out on InDesign and send it to a printer or something. It's in the back of my mind, but it's not a priority at the moment because, again, I'm only on like page 20 of this comic, which I don't know how long it's gonna be. Yeah, so I'm just working here. I'm just using a regular Photoshop brush. I got a comment in the last comic video about possibly getting Clip Studio Paint, and I have been thinking about switching over to Clip Studio Paint just because Adobe is doing all these kinds of shenanigans with their subscription service. I actually have a very, very old version of Adobe Photoshop. I think I have Adobe Photoshop CS5 is what I'm using at this time, like what you see here. So it's very, you know, not updated. I don't actually have it connected to the cloud, so it's a bootleg version. So eventually I will be, I always procrastinate switching over to Clip Studio because I know there is going to be that learning curve in terms of learning all the different kinds of, I guess, buttons and all that kind of stuff on Clip Studio, even though it will be very similar to Photoshop. So it will probably take me a couple days to get used to using Clip Studio, but there is that, you know, I am procrastinating because I don't want to have to learn stuff all over again. But I've heard very, very good things about Clip Studio Paint. Not only is it cheaper, they have more features for comic artists, as I see on my Twitter all the time. And so I'm definitely going to be switching over to Clip Studio Paint eventually. I'll be waiting for that, you know, summer sale that they have all the time, or they always have Clip Studio Paint on sale at some point. And so the next time that comes up, I'm definitely going to be downloading it, and then I might not use it right away, but I will definitely play around with it when I can. I'm just bouncing around on so many different projects at the moment that sitting down to learn Clip Studio Paint is like a luxury. So on top of my work schedule and all the projects that I want to do, it's just that makes me procrastinate. Okay, so here I am reworking the stiff naked Stella into something a little bit more interesting. I have a couple of references up on my Google here. Her body, it was quite elongated in this version, but then with the power of Photoshop and whatever photo editing or drawing software you have, you can, you know, lasso things, cut it up, stretch it, shrink it. So it's a lot easier working digitally. I can't imagine working traditionally. The people who do that, the comic artists, the manga artists who do everything traditionally, is amazing. So it takes more hours, a lot more hours than just 2 hours on a page. And 2 hours on a page I don't think is that long. It's fairly quick, I believe, because a lot of the techniques I use they're pretty quick. So anyway, so I switch it again. I decided I want her backside facing the viewer instead, and I thought that would be a bit more interesting. The chest area would be nice to showcase, but I think this is pretty cute too. So again, it's really, really inspired by by Ranma. When I was reading that as a kid, I was just like, they look so pretty. So anyway, I wanted to kind of add that kind of thing into my comic, that kind of comedy. So I did end up ordering volumes of Ranma. I think I mentioned it in my previous video, but I still have to pick them up from the comic store that I ordered them from. So hopefully I can get those soon. But yeah, I am struggling to think about what to talk about in this video. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's kind of fun seeing myself work from very beginning. You can see how much erasing I do and how much my mind changes when it comes to panels and stuff like that. And I wish I had a better answer for how do you plan out panels. I don't know. I don't know why I decided to go with these many panels in the beginning. It again, you can see it change. I guess what I can say is the previous page really helps plan out what happens in the next page, obviously, unless it's the beginning of a chapter or the beginning of an episode or story. I find that that's a lot harder to start, but if you're working on, you know, the third or fourth page, obviously it's easier to transition from that to the second page. I don't know what I'm even talking about, but I'm trying to explain how I do decide to, you know, do 5 panels, 4 panels. I think in the beginning I had 4 panels, but now it looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, counting the full body shot of Stella there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. In terms of the one downside about not scripting my comics is sometimes the thought bubbles or the speech bubbles can get really cramped. So I try to make sure there is that space for dialogue. I myself personally don't really like comics with too much text. I find it a little bit overwhelming. And like, I know I have yet to read the Watchmen comic. I heard many good things about that comic, but I remember borrowing it at the library or seeing it at some point or having it in my hands at some point, but I just never could read it because it was too intimidating for me. There was just a lot to take in. So my personal choice is not to have too much text or dialogue within my comic. And myself, I just can't seem to read that kind of stuff unless I really, really want to. I don't know what it is. I feel like as I get older, reading is harder. I think it's just because time goes by faster. At least for me, it goes by faster now that I'm getting older. I have so many things that I want to do in a day. Look at me struggling with these stairs. I think that looks right, so I just decided to have the steps look that way. And I guess if you do the perspective lines that vanish into 1 point or 2 point, I don't even know, they won't really match up. But it works because Stella is pretty much covering the whole stairs, and you can tell that she's on stairs, I hope. So that's enough for me. Anyway, I forgot what I was talking about before I got distracted by the way I was drawing the stairs. Getting older. I just turned 31 the past week, so there you go. My time is running out. No, I'm kidding. 31 is not old at all. It's just kind of a thing to say. I'm getting older. Now I can't do these things. I just feel like time is just going by so fast and I want to do all these things. But, pretty limited with all the stuff that I have to do in a day. Oh yeah, so anyway, I am now inking. And if you are curious what I'm using to ink, I'm just using a regular round brush from Photoshop. I think this is a size 6 with the brushes, with the brush pressure, just regular. And sometimes you can tell that the brush strokes aren't that smooth. I remember when I was using Photoshop in my earlier days, I was so obsessed with how the brush stroke looked. I looked up, what do you call those? I looked up tutorials on how to make the brush really smooth. I think you can download certain programs like Nozumi or something this was a while ago. You can download certain programs to make your brush strokes as smooth as possible, but I don't like depending on things that are probably not going to be that I have to update or something like that, or I might lose. So I tend to go back to the simplest thing. So what I'm using right now is just a regular brush, and yeah, you can tell sometimes the brush strokes are not that smooth just because I don't want to rely on something that, I don't know, it might go away in a couple of years. I might have to purchase. Like, even thinking about it, I'm kind of scared of relying on Photoshop because, as you can see right now, Photoshop is kind of dying just because of the way, Adobe is handling their whole thing. So people are moving over to different programs and stuff like that. I feel the same way for social media. Like, I don't want to be so reliant on just using Instagram or Twitter. So I like to use so many different things, and I want to be able to adapt and change with times, I guess. And that goes the same with my drawing techniques. I want it to be the most parsimonious or the simplest thing I can have. Traditionally, that's the same way too. I do like using mixed media, but if it comes to it, I just like to use the simplest stuff, if that makes any sense. So that goes the same with my brushes and my patterns. What else? So I think she looks pretty good. I feel like the anatomy right here is not that great. I struggled a little bit drawing her boobs, just because this I couldn't find the best reference for this without looking up really raunchy poses that I don't really need. So it was quite difficult. I'll show you the reference image that I use somewhere at some point while I'm drawing this. But yeah, it was difficult for me to search the right pose. So I really had to kind of use my brain for this in terms of the anatomy that I've learned in my drawing life or my drawing career, I guess. But I think it turned out good. The boobs could use a little work, I think, but I think she looks fine, I think. So this is one of my favorite panels that I'm working on right here, where she's kind of just silenced and shocked at what she's looking at. What is going on? Why is there a second one of me totally naked here? Abbott, what is happening? So yeah, and then I was gonna show you guys the second page of this, because this is gonna be like an episode on Tapastic. No, I haven't posted it yet. So I'm trying to get the second page done before I didn't show you guys that work. It was just 2 panels. So yeah, I also, when I was working on this, as I've been working on the other pages too, lines to me are very important. I'm pretty obsessed with line work, but I found as I was working with Spice Cake is that I really have to push through the ugly stage. It's not as noticeable here with the sketch underneath the line art, but if you get rid of the line art and if you get rid of the sketch and just have the line art in front of you, it looks really rough to me. And I try to push past that, because once I put down the background with the dark, just the solid blacks, like the stairway over there with the solid blacks and the patterns and the text, it all comes together. So sometimes, like I was when working on this on and off, there were a couple times I was like, I don't want to look at the unfinished, I don't want to look at the ugly, so I had to take a break, or else I would just erase everything and start it all over again. So I'm learning this thing. I think this is a lifelong thing that I have to learn, is I have to push past the ugly stage. Line art is important if you're just doing pure line artwork, at least in my opinion. But if you're going to be laying patterns and brushes and stuff, it's just you have to look at the big picture, I guess, with that, what they call it, the gestalt of it. Just look at the big picture, everything will come together in the end and it will be fine. So once I started adding in the shading and stuff like that and the effects, it started looking a little better and I could push past it. But yeah, there were some days where I just didn't feel like doing the line art and just being patient. So at least I got it done, and I really like how the page turned out. So we're pretty much almost to the end of the video. So I hope that was interesting. I do struggle sometimes thinking about things to talk about, and I do know you guys like to hear me talk while I do these comic videos or my drawing videos. I would try, I mean, you could ask questions, I will try and answer them. Maybe I'll come up with certain topics next time to talk about. I just came back home from work, I had dinner, I cleaned up the kitchen, and now I'm doing this commentary. So I didn't really think about it. Next time maybe I'll talk about a specific topic about comics or a specific topic about Spice Cake for the next comic videos. I feel like once the story kind of gets going, because right now we're still in the beginnings of the story itself of Spice Cake. Once we get going, I feel like I'll have more to talk about the characters and just about the this little world that I'm trying to build with them. So hopefully in the future I'll have a little bit more to talk about, but for now it's going to be kind of all over the place. So yeah. Anyway, if you are curious about the fonts that I use, the Spice Cake font that I use, if you look at the vanity pages on Tapas or Webtoon, it's just called Bemio. And then for some of the sound effects, I use Back Issues, a free font that I downloaded many years ago from freefont.com. And that's pretty much it. So again, with fonts too, I want to keep it simple. I just use one font pretty much for doing the text. And I guess that could be a piece of advice too, is if you're thinking about working on a comic, make sure you have, it's best, I think, to keep it going if you want to keep it simple. It's best to keep it simple with the stuff that you use in terms of I use the same actual lines. I know there is a filter for that, but I don't know how to do it. I have to look up a tutorial, but I use the same filters and I use the same brushes. I like to experiment with different patterns, but I try to keep it minimal just so everything that I need I have, and I don't kind of look through so many things. So simple is best. Again, this will change as I keep working on Spice Cake. Most likely I'll add different effects. Maybe it'll look better as we go on, but keeping it simple is good if you are starting a comic and you want to keep going with it. The more complicated it gets, the harder it is to keep up with. So I guess that's pretty good advice. Keep your stuff simple. And again, like I said in the first video, I wanted to go with color, but I knew my limits. I knew I wouldn't be able to keep up with the amount of pages if I did do it in color. So I did decide to go with a simple grayscale black and white look. And if you can do color, maybe cut some corners somewhere else. Maybe that's not the right phrasing, but find other ways to keep it simple for you. Make it easy to, churn the pages out. Again, churn the pages out doesn't seem like the best way to talk about things. It seems like you're trying to push yourself, but it's supposed to be fun. So remember that too. Remember, it has to be fun. All right, so I think I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys so much for watching this comic video. I'm glad you enjoyed the last one. I think you enjoyed the last one. I hope you did. But I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much to my members in my, I call it the Joy Club, I guess, because I do have them labeled as clubs. So, but I do call them members now. I did leave Patreon quite a while ago, so if you would like to be a member of my club, make sure to check out my website and sign up. And you can get physical rewards, but you can also get early access pages for Spice Cake. And if you haven't checked it out already, I do have a potential class happening with Class 101. I'm going to tack that on here, so check that out. I will be teaching a pencil crayon class if that goes through. So make sure to check it out and leave a vote. So thank you so much again for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure to check out Spice Cake. So here we are. Thank you to my members from Stella and Abbott and me, and have a great rest of your week. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.